Hello, I'm Wim with Lawo, and in this video we're going to show you how you can create, use and apply scripts in the vMatrix system. Let's have a look. In this session we're going to show you a bit more in detail how you can use scripting to configure a vMatrix C100 system. The vMatrix system is very flexible. This means that you can select whatever functionality you want on each of the individual cards. The best way of configuring a C100 system is by using the JSON scripts. We will start with a simple script and then have a look at a more advanced script. So to start, we would go into the advanced section. This part of the C100 website is mainly used for debugging and to have a look at what is the current status. It's not really designed to do your full configuration from here. Most of the items that we would like to see are already available into the basic level. To start our recording of a script, we can go down to the automation part, and there we can see that we have a record script functionality. To start recording our script, we can simply click on it and we can see that the start recording has been started. So in this case, what I would like to do is go into the PTP section and create a PTP agent. So if I press on Create Agent, I select the agent, and then I would assign a hosting port to this agent. So I take my left 40 gig lane, and now it is assigned. So we can see that we currently have 2 entries. If that is all I need to record, I can press the stop record. Additionally, I could also continue recording. So I can reactivate my recording and I can go back onto the agents and I can select a second agent, select this agent, and now I can select my second port of the 40 gig and assign to this. Now we can see that we have 4 entries. Let's have a look at these entries. So I stop my recording and I show my script. So in this case, the system is showing me that we had a first click for the creation of the PTP agent. Then we have the hosting port command. We had the second click and the second port that was assigned. If we wish to use this script, then we can download this script and save it for later use. So let's save this one. To test the script that we just created, we would need to remove these agents first so that we can create them through the script. If you would have a more advanced or a longer script, the easiest thing you can do is go all the way down to the system and select the reset. So you would type in reset and enter, and this would reset the card and you start with a clean sheet. If we wish to apply our script, we can just select execute script. We would go to the download section. There we have the script that we would like to use. And now our script has been executed. We can see this here under the notification. So it says that it executed the JavaScript with the name and it was all successful. If we now go into the PTP agents and we would select the agents, we can see that the port has been assigned and the same for the second one. If we now have a quick look at our script, so we can go to the download section and I would open this with Notepad. It is advised to use editors like Notepad++ on Windows or BBEdit, etc. on the Mac side to do this editing. Because if you use a normal text editor, it is possible that certain unviewable characters are in your script and that could ruin the execution of the script. So we can see in here that we have the await dispatch of the PTP, so it's the click that we first did. Then there is a small pause of 500. We can see that the pause is exactly the same. So this is something that has been added to the script automatically. It's not something we have added manually. The next step is the PTP of the ports. So the adding of pauses in these scripts is to allow the system to execute the click we have done before, and then we can go into the change. So we had the click, we wait 500 milliseconds, and then we do the change, then we have another click, then we have another wait, and then we have the selection of the port. So that's what is currently in this script. If we wish to continue adding more items to the script, we can do that. We still have the original 4 entries, so I can reactivate my script. And now I can, for example, add one of my PTP agents onto the system. So I can say I would like to do PTP agent 0. And now this is also seen as one of the items in my script. So now I have 5 entries. So if I would like to stop it and I would download it, I have a new version of the script with that extra line into it. If I wish to start doing a new chapter of my scripting, what I can do is just refresh my browser, and when we go back down to the record section, we can see that the previous recorded script steps are not in the script anymore. Now let's have a look at an example of a script. When we are going to create scripts, we basically have 2 potential options to make scripts. We can go for a single script per individual card, which works pretty nice if you have a smaller system and you would really like to have a script per card to have a very nice overview. Or you can use like a more automated way of scripting. When we have a bigger setup where we have 10, 20, 40 or even up to 100 C100 cards, we might like to use some automation so that we just have a list of IP addresses with the type of the card that we would like to configure, and then the system will configure the cards correctly. This would allow us to have an easier way of configuring multiple cards at once. To start learning a bit more about scripting, the single script is a little bit easier to understand because there is no automation and everything is easily to record and to be built by yourself. So let's dive into this example script. The first block that we have here on top is a bit of information. So it is like a title. By using these slashes, we can make sure that they are not integrated into the script as executable lines. They are just there as comments. So we have the C100 config training, which is the name of my current script. Then I added a note for which software version the script is built. I added my name so that people know if they have some question about the script, that they could contact me and discuss anything that's in the script. I would always suggest people to add this basic information so that it's easy for whoever is going to use that script to know which is the compatible version and do I maybe need to update it to be compatible with the new version. Who did originally create it, so if there is something that is not completely clear, I could reach out to that person. Next step we have is the dummy style. So we have no loops, no links in the script that is used. So the system is very easy to use because there are no items at all. Next step we have is the name of the card. So in this section what we have done is we have added some comments to make it very clear for everybody what is the section about. So in this part we set the name of the web browser. So we have the official line of code that is being added. So everything else until now was just a comment. So we have the await write of the system user info with short description and the name. This is a piece of information that allows us to easily understand which card we are working on. Next step is to set the name of the network interface. So again, this is a comment line and this comment will show us what is the detail is coming next to it. So we have the await write, then we have the part of it. So we're going to say what is the desired configuration. And what we are going to do is we're going to save the host name. We can see that here we have a different kind of item. So in this case, it's a change request. So it will wait until the card responded that the change has been done. And we have a pause. Next to that, we have the inform. So the system will inform us that the name of the card is being configured. So what we currently have and what we can see on this side is that it will give us a note to identify that the card has been configured. Next step we have are the clock settings. So in this case, we're going to define what is the PTP system. So this looks very familiar with what we have been seeing and doing before. So this will show us all the individual items of the configuration. So we have the change request, so we have the create, etc. It will say what kind of domain command we have, it's using multicast, etc. And then it will go on to the next steps. Optionally, we can add some extra items and extra configuration of the system if needed. In this case, these items are not in use because they have the extra symbols to show us that the system will not apply it. So if needed, we could add this extra information, but we are currently not using. And again, at the end, it will inform us about the clock setting that is configured. The nice thing about these inform sections is that when you have a script that needs to be updated and something has changed from one version to another, you can easily see in the script until which point your script was going well. So you don't have to worry about finding the exact piece of code throughout all the line of codes. You can just go to the section that you needed to go. And you don't need to search all the document. You can just say, okay, I was going well until the clock settings are confirmed. So you know that the problem with your script is behind this section and not before. In here we have an option for the backplane. So if we have a flexible backplane, in some cases the backplane can be reversible, so an output could be changed into an input. In this case it's a 10 by 10 card, so I don't need to configure it. So again, the whole part of the code has been disabled for now. Same for the inform. There is no need to inform that that section is configured because there is no configuring done at all. Next part is the receivers. So what we can see is that we have up to 10 receivers. If we need more receivers, we can easily copy paste this code to add more receivers. So if I would like to have 2 more receivers, I can just paste in 2 more items and that will allow me to have 2 more. Same over here. So what I can do is I could go in here and change and copy paste it. In this case, I don't need to add more, so I don't need to do this. Then we have the receiver sessions. So what this will do is basically rename the sessions. Those are the sessions that we previously created. So we had up to 20 that are created. What I always like to do when I do these namings is to keep it zero based. That makes it more easy for everybody to understand. Although most of the time we would start counting from 1, it makes it way more easy to start from 0 because most of the stuff into the C100 is zero based, as you can see. If you would make it session 1 and then in other parts of the software you would see the session as zero based, it could be very confusing. Next to that we have the creation of 10 video receivers, because before we were just doing the sessions. We have 10 audio receivers and then it's a question of mapping those freshly created video and audio receivers to our sessions. So we have the receiver 0. In this section, we're going to set the name for all created video and audio receivers. So again, we start from 0 to make it pretty easy to keep it consistent. In the next section, we're going to set the routing for the receiver sessions into the video receivers. So we have all our different video receivers and we're going to link them with the first 9 sessions. After that, we're going to link the audio receivers with the audio sessions. Then we have an option to set the audio channels. So in this case, all of my audio receivers will be 8 channels. But I could change this if I want to make one that is 2 channels, 4, or even 16. The nice thing about this scripting is that you can just change what you need, you can apply it, and if needed, you can change it again. So you could create this script for each individual card based on what are the needs for that card. Then we can add some extra information like break before make. There was some switch time commands that is currently not active because we can see that it's been set. I also added these little .x's so that I could search for certain items if I would like to change them. Then we have the fact that we need to assign the video receiver to both the left and the right 40 gig interface for redundancy. Let's say I would use it as a single system without redundancy and I would only have the primary. I could come into this script and just make it as a comment. So that means that for each of the lines that we have, I would adapt them like this, and the secondary interface would not be attached. In my current setup, I would like to have the redundancy, so I'm going to leave them to have -7. In my system, I would like to keep the redundancy, so I'm not going to change it for now. And then we have some more options like time sourcing, and at last, the activation of all the receivers. Again, we're going to show and inform stream receivers configured. We get to the next chapter, so as you can see, it's pretty easy to see what each individual chapter is, thanks to these little comment lines. So set the parameters for the video signal generator. So in this case, I can change the parameters. So for example, if I prefer to have like progressive, I could change this into progressive. Of course, it is important that whatever you would manually assign in here is matching with the C100 code, because otherwise you will receive an error. So let's say that we would like to change the format of the signal generator. So what I could do is I go back into the system, I would activate my record of scripting, and I can go and look for my video signal generator, and I can select a different standard. So let's say I would like to have a standard for 1080i P50. If I would like to make it very clear that I was switching in between, I can even put a pause to have a pause line. And then I say, for example, I would rather have 1080i 60. Add a pause to it. Then I would like to have like 4K. Adding a pause. And then I would be going into, let's say, Classic PAL. And that's all the items that I need. So now I can stop my recording. I could show the script to see what are the values and use this. But very often I prefer to download the script and have a look at the script itself. So I can go to the folder, open up the file, again with Notepad, and now I can see what are the different items. So for example, if I want to be sure that I use the right value, I can just double click, Ctrl C, go back to my code, double click and paste it. As we have those nice little brackets, it is very easy to select the piece of code that we want, except if there is like a dot in between. Then I would need to have a longer selection. But most of the time I can just do it like this. So I will change this back to 50. Same for the audio signal generator, we can define what we want to do. Next chapter is the video matrix. So in this case we're going to make a video crossbar that has 22 inputs and 20 outputs. Next step would be to assign the sources and the destinations. The first section that we're going to do is connect the SDI inputs, so we can see the first 10 connections of the crossbar, and they will have the 10 SDI video inputs. Again, we use a zero-based system. Next step would be to add the receivers. If we wish, we could also add a blank line in between those items to make it more clear what is the difference between SDI and what is a receiver. Pay attention that we are using a term SDI output even if we see it as an SDI input. That's why it's always easier to record parts of your script and then add the items that you want by copy-paste and changing the numbers. We also added the video signal generator to the matrix, so it's easy to send a signal from the signal generator. Again, we would inform you that the video matrix is successfully configured. Next step, audio matrix. So again, we tell the size of the audio matrix, we would assign first the SDI outputs, then we say what kind of channels that we would like to have, so we say the amount of channels per output, because when you use audio, it is important to get that kind of information. Then we can say what is the crossbar cross points, because we can pre-configure, in this case we just leave it flat. And then we have the audio receivers that we can add to it. So we will inform people that the audio matrix is set. Next step we will do is assign some more sources to the audio matrix, including the audio signal generator, and then inform about the audio matrix is configured. You can add as much as you want of these inform messages, they will just add some more comments. Then we have the SDI backplane, so the part 2, because part 1 was the configuration of the inputs and the outputs. We didn't really use this because in our system we didn't need to, because it's a 10 by 10 fixed backplane. But then we can do the rest of the backplane that we would like to do, the configuration. So we have some standard commands, we can do some constraints to be sure. For example, if you only have a 1.5 gig able device connected to the output, you might want to limit these kind of items. Again, the easiest way would to going into the C100 and record your option. So we go back into the C100, we go to the I/O module, and then we can go, for example, to one of the outputs, SDI, constraints, and so currently there is no constraint active. To capture what we need, we can go into the record of the script, and we can select, for example, we only want to allow HD signals. So we can say we want to do in HD 1080i 50, and that is being saved. Stop recording, download script, go to the folder, edit with Notepad, and then we can see what is the constraint. So we can see that now we have a value. Copy the value. And so in here we can see that it's set to 0, so it doesn't set it, but I can select this one and replace it. Now you can notice that it is set in black and not in blue or not in purple. So by adding the right details, we can actually set the value. So by changing it like this, we can make it a proper value. Sometimes it makes sense to group your items. So in this case, what we've done is we have our SDI out for the group enabling. And in this case, what we've done is we added the space to make it more obvious which SDI output is it, because we have per 4 selected. We have some bypass of VANG data, video routing to the SDI outputs, audio routing to the SDI outputs, and then the SDI back panel part 2 is configured. We can go up to the video transmitters. Again, we have manual clicks, so we add some extra pauses to it. Same over here. Then we have set all the video transmitters to 2110 GPM. We link all the video transmitters to the left 40 gig and to the right 40 gig. Again, this allows you to quickly say, I don't want to set the second series to be redundant. Up to you. Then we have multicast addressing. So in this case, we're going to set each individual multicast address for the transmitter. As you can see that we have this 66 range for the card itself, and then we have like 40 for the video. Then we have 140 for the other side, for the right. We have the payload. Again, the payload for the other side. We didn't set any of the gen lock. It's an optional setting in this case. So we have the payload for the right 40 gig interface. We disabled some gen lock. We have the bypass settings for the VANG on all transmitters. To be sure that each of the individual transmitter can handle any time of video, we have allowed them to be set to 0. We didn't set any bandwidth limitation on the video transmitter. We did not activate UHD functionality on the transmitters. Of course, if you want something different, you could come in here and change this. Set the video routing towards the video transmitters and activate all the video transmitters once you're done. And again, we have the inform. Next step is to do the audio transmitters. So we have audio transmitters, creating 18 audio transmitters, creating redundant streaming on all of the audio transmitters, set all audio transmitters to 8 channels, set all audio transmitters to L24, link them to the left 40 gig, to the right 40 gig, then do the multicast addresses. As you can see, we have 41 for audio, and then on the second, on the right multicast, we have 141. So it's very easy when we see a certain multicast address to identify directly which one it is. So we know that 41 is used for audio, it's on the left interface, and it's number 1, so it is the first that we have. So you can use these kind of blocks to identify. So 239 would be the basic one, and then you can say 41 is for all the audios on the left, 141 is for all the audios on the right, and then 66 could be the identifier for your individual card. The last digit could be used to identify the individual stream on that card. So we continue with setting up the video transmitters. Then we can inform that the audio transmitters are configured. Then we would need to activate a reboot to publish the crossbars to Ember Plus. So we have some naming that we have done to change it. Then I added an extra pause of 5 seconds for people to allow them to see the message that we have. So that's all, folks. Stand by, get a coffee, and we will be back after the break. It's never a bad thing to add a little joke into your scripts. So next step is to reboot the publish crossbar for the Ember Plus. So the system will do a reboot, and once we are done, the system has been configured. So let's have a look on how this works onto the C100. We're now back on the C100 card, and the first thing I will do is do a reset to be sure my card is completely empty and nothing is in between. After applying the reset command, the system will be wiped and it will do a reboot. Once the card comes back online, we can apply the script that we have created or the script that we have received from somebody else. We see that the card is coming back, and now I can go up onto my script. If we wish to erase everything that's here, I can just refresh my card and everything is gone. I go back to the execute script. In this case, I would go on to my scripts, simple scripting, C100, select this one. And then we can see we get these notifications and they're counting up. So let's have a look at the first two. Clock settings configured, name of the card configured. Click again. And we can see that between the second notification and the third notification, there is quite a lot going on because it took a little bit of time. Now we can see that the counter is going up again. So we click again. Yeah, items are being configured. 7 notifications, 8 notifications. So we can click to see each time a new notification has been created. Between 8 and 9, there is again quite a lot of configuration going on, so it takes a little bit of time. 9 is done. Waiting again for the next step. "12 notifications, including the nice little message that say that we can get a coffee and that the system will be back after the break. And we have 14 notifications in total. It says executed JavaScript file correctly. It is rebooting to apply the update of the Ember Plus 3 with the crossbars. From version 1.10 on, we don't use the Ember Plus anymore to control the C100 card, and everything will be done through the gadget server. So a reboot of the card is not really necessary, but I can see that we still have the habit of doing those reboots anyway. So the card has now been configured. We can see stuff like the sessions. Session 0. I thought we had done some renaming on the sessions. After you have done a configuration and you don't refresh the browser, the old information is still there. So let's refresh the browser, go back into the RTP receiver and have a look. And now the sessions have been changed name-wise. We can see that it's been set to active. We can check what kind of video and audio receiver, and everything seems to be configured correctly. Let's have a look onto the information page. It is calibrated, everything looks happy. Well done. Let's say we made a mistake in our configuration. So let's say instead of pool, we did something like this with 2 zeros. I save it and I go back to my C100 card. On the C100 card, I will execute my script. And we can have a look again onto the notification. First step, no problem at all. Currently doing second step, was no problem at all. Going into the third one, still going. As long as I don't see an error, everything goes well. So 4 notifications. So we can see, aha, we have an error. So if we look onto the error, unable to execute, executing failed for unknown reasons. So let's have a look at the notification. So we can see that the last successful part was the signal generator that was configured. Let's have a look at our script. So we know that the signal generator was successfully configured, so the problem is behind it. But we didn't see the matrix was configured correctly, so we know that the block is between those two. Of course, now we know that we have been messing around with these two items, but if we didn't know, or something has changed into the naming convention of the C100 card, this would allow us to quickly find the part that we need to update. I hope you find this useful to identify where in a script you might potentially need to have a look to update your script. Most of the setups done with C100 today are being commissioned by the Lawo SSE team. So we have many of our experts worldwide who can help you with the scripting. And depending on your setup, we can go for an easier one-by-one card approach, like you have seen before, or a more advanced all-in-one approach. Depending on your setup and the best approach, we will build a script that matches your setup. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully we will see you again next week for more videos.